hope you're all doing well. So I just wanted to make a small extension to my video on JENOVA and Sephiroth. As you see, that original video was meant to primarily focus on what their relationship was like in the original and how that grew and how that evolved. However, I would now like to make this video as a bit of an extension to what their relationship and what the connection between them two has become going into the remake series, because I feel like it has expanded quite a substantial amount. So in this video we're going to be looking at JENOVA new plan going into the remake series and the result that they're hoping to get out of it. And also we're going to be looking at the connection between JENOVA and Sephiroth and how that's expanded from what it was in the original game, where they were a force for potential planetary destruction by causing the meteor to fall, into now what it is in the remake series, where it's essentially gone from a force of potential planetary destruction, where now JENOVA and Sephiroth are now essentially a force for potential cosmic destruction. And in this video we're going to be covering exactly why and how that is, and why the last 27 years since the original game, all the way up until when Remake was released, JENOVA and Sephiroth were within the live stream, mulling over and perfecting this plan together, so that now, this time, they may be the ones to come out victorious, except this time on a much bigger scale. So, when all's said and done and victory has been achieved by JENOVA finally, rather than them just ruling over a destroyed, meteor-ravaged world that they can simply absorb the life stream of and move on to the next world, instead, they now seek to rule over every timeline in the whole cosmos. So, rather than absorbing the power of one planet's life stream and ruling over that planet, instead, it seems that JENOVA now seeks to absorb the life stream of all planets so that they can become the true deity that rules over all. After all, Sephiroth's had 27 years in the life stream on the edge of creation, understanding probably how small and how insignificant he really is. And while looking out into that void, instead of the void reaching out to grab him, he reached into the void and grabbed it back. And now he can see how truly small-minded his ambition was to destroy and rule over the planet and the life stream. He grew even more ambitious. I think at that point, stood on the edge of creation, looking out into the void, I think what really happened was that JENOVA and Sephiroth could see just how small-minded their ambitions truly were. Rather than destroying this planet and using it to go and rule over other planets, they instead could now see that they could destroy this whole world and use it to rule over other worlds. It's the same plan, but with a much more victorious and much more devastating conclusion. Instead of JENOVA and Sephiroth's DNA bleeding into our life stream and destroying our world, it will now bleed into every life stream in every world, and JENOVA's DNA cannot be corrupted once inside. Like a cancer, it has gripped our life stream, and it will now branch over into other worlds to bleed into and destroy their own life stream. In the original story from 97, Sephiroth wanted to wound the planet and absorb that energy from the life stream to become a god, but in the remake, he's playing a much larger game of 3D chess. He has gone from wanting to rule over a tapestry to just wanting to burn them all down into nothingness. And as Sephiroth and JENOVA cannot be dissolved once entered into the life stream, there is no promised land for them, so everything else will fade away into nothingness, leaving only Sephiroth and JENOVA as the only beings left standing, if their plan comes to fruition, of course. And isn't that what Sephiroth always wanted, really? He didn't want to become a god, he didn't want to be a deity, he didn't want to rule over the world. All he wanted was his mother, and to be able to protect her. And now he'll have a whole world for just him and JENOVA, where they can do just that, and he can protect and love his mother and spend all of eternity being with her just like he wanted to. You see, in the original, Sephiroth wanted to gift his mother the world in the way that he ends up doing it with Meteor, because he felt that whether she was a Cetra or not, Jenova and her superior powers was the one that deserved to rule over this planet, along with Sephiroth himself. But in the original, he only sought to give his mother the world. Now, in the remake series, he seeks to provide his mother with all of reality itself and all of the worlds that are out there for Jenova to rule over with Sephiroth by her side. Or is it for Sephiroth to rule over with her by its side? To be honest, it doesn't matter. When Jenova finally manages to achieve this, she will achieve the convergence of worlds, and instead of just ruling over and absorbing the life stream of our pitiful world, she will now be absorbing the life stream from every world in every timeline. His new goal is an attempt to change the meaning of the Jenova reunion theory. In the remake series, he still seeks the reunion, but this time his goals are way more sinister and way more ambitious, way more befitting of the eldritch cosmic horror of a mother that he has, if you ask me. This time, he does not seek to just reunite Jenova. He seeks to reunite the very timelines and the very worlds in which we inhabit, collapsing them into a single point of nothingness, leaving him and Jenova the de facto rulers over a timeline of oblivion and nothingness. You see, isn't it a little bit ironic? We thought that defeating the Whisperers meant total freedom, freedom to choose our own path, freedom to go against the boundaries that fate has set before us all these years up until now. We thought we were carving out a new future, but for Sephiroth, for Jenova, the death of fate wasn't a setback. It was the very key that they desired in order for them to blow away the boundaries of fate and set themselves upon a new path in which they may carve themselves out a timeline where they alone will emerge as the victorious ones over Cloud and his party. Because that's the real reason why they've broken the boundaries of fate, because they wish to find a timeline in which they are the ones that emerge victorious. But in order to do that, they need a little help from the other most important person in all of these timelines. But there's one thing that stands in the way of, and has always stood in the way of, Sephiroth and Jenova's plan, and this one is absolutely no different. In the remake series, there's one thing that Jenova is missing in order to achieve this ruling over all realities, and that is none other than Cloud Strife. You see, Cloud has always been a thorn in Sephiroth's side, even in the original game, where Jenova, throughout the events of the game, up until the end of the Northern Crater that is, barely even acknowledged who he was as a person, barely even acknowledged his existence. But the real Sephiroth knows exactly who Cloud is. Remember, although he may have been injured in the original game, Cloud was the one to defeat Sephiroth and actually cast his body into the life stream, killing him as a singular human being, at least, entirely. And then from that point forward, it was Jenova taking over his form. But Cloud did that shit while not being Mako infused as a soldier and not yet having the Jenova gene inside of him. So the fact he was able to do that, of course Sephiroth's going to remember who he is. Sephiroth won't be able to forget who Cloud is. And I think after having 20 plus years to be in the live stream mulling over his defeat, Sephiroth has realized that in every timeline, no matter what happens, whether it's the OG or Advent Children or any of the other ones out there, Cloud always defeats Sephiroth. That is the one universal constant. However, by destroying the Arbiters of Fate and allowing the life stream to bleed into other realities, Sephiroth has allowed the possibility for that to potentially change. You see, I think this time Sephiroth has realized that no matter how hard he tries, no matter how hard him and Jenova try, they'll never be able to push past the will of Cloud and his desire to protect those he loves close to him. I think he's realized he's never going to defeat that. So, this time in Remake, I feel that he is trying to recruit him. Think about what he said to him in The Edge of Creation at the end of Remake Part 1. I feel that Sephiroth knows that with Cloud standing in front of him, he'll never complete his objective. However, with Cloud standing beside him and Jenova, they'll be able to not just conclude this plan, but who knows what they might be able to achieve with Cloud by his side. And I think that's why, in especially Rebirth, they went for a lot more effort to show the psychological torment that Cloud has been going through thanks to Sephiroth and Jenova's influence. And I think the reason why it seems so much more drawn out in Rebirth, and he's dealing with a lot more psychological issues, is simply because Sephiroth and Jenova are trying to break his mind to take control. Think about what happened to Sephiroth when he lost his mind and went mental in the Nibelheim incident. Think about it. He found out who his mother was. He read about the experiments in the Shinra Manor and how he was created. And his psyche was broken and beaten down so much, and he was so alone, that Jenova was finally able to take control. And I think that's what they're attempting to do with Cloud. God knows what type of psychological torment they're going to release on him in Part 3, but clearly the attempt is being made to break Cloud down so much to the point that he is going to do exactly what Sephiroth did and be put into a corner, be all alone, and eventually his mind will break apart so much that Jenova will be able to take control, just like what happened to Sephiroth at Nibelheim. Hopefully in Part 3, when Cloud's mind fully breaks apart after the realization at the Northern Cave, and the subsequent putting his mind back together in Midel when they fall into the live stream with Tifa, I hope that this time his mind has not been broken down so much that Jenova will be able to take control of him at that point. But let's just hope Cloud's friends stick by his side just as much as in the original, and his mind can be put back together without that happening. And of course, there's one more wildcard that we need to consider, that being Aerith, of course. Sephiroth's plan has one fatal flaw, and it's her. In the original, her death was his victory, concealing Holy so that it can't stop the meteor. But in this new reality, Aerith is playing the same game of 3D chess that he is, reaching across timelines to protect the white materia. Let's just hope that this time, what Aerith has managed to pull off for us before her life was taken from her is hopefully enough to achieve a similar level of victory to what we had in the OG. And hopefully her loss will not have been for nothing, just like it was in the original. But I have faith that will be the case. And I also have faith and hope in Tetsuya Nomura and Kazushige Nojima's writing style. I've been a fan of their work literally since the original game, and I still am a big fan of their work now, to be honest. I really do love the remake series, although I do understand that some of the writing choices in some areas can certainly be a little bit more on the convoluted side, hence why I've put this video together to hopefully make the difference in Jenova and Sephiroth's plan between the original game and this one. I hope that my breakdown of it here has at least made their writing choices a little bit more on the understandable side now that I've explained it all. But yeah, I have to admit, the remake series has sort of brought back how I used to feel about FF7 during my childhood, you know. I will admit that it's kind of got me in a little bit of a chokehold, to be honest, so I will give a round of applause to both Nojima and Nomura for that one, to be honest, because I didn't think it was going to have that much of an effect on me, but it certainly did, so fair play to them. So with that anyway, guys, thank you all very much for your time. I really appreciate you watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Nice one. Take it easy. On Part 3. I'm going to try not get my hopes and feelings too high up, but I certainly do believe they are going to deliver on their promise to stick true to the original game and the original story, but also deliver on a brand new experience alongside it. So far, I think they've done that amazingly, and I see no reason why they wouldn't continue to do that in Part 3. Right, again, thank you everyone for your time. I appreciate it. You all enjoy the rest of your day. Take it easy.